Hello, everybody. It is me, Cynthia Garrett, and welcome to the sessions. Why am I holding this book? And I'll tell you why. Because joining me for an incredible journey through the next few sessions is someone that I consider not just a brother in Christ and a great friend, but an inspiration of epic proportions. He has authored several books and appeared on a whole lot of major news networks around the world. He's won an Emmy Award, which is a really big deal in television. And most importantly, he is a man of God that I really respect, with an anointing for evangelism like none other. Miles McPherson, AKA Pastor Miles to a whole lot of people, is a father to three, a husband to one, and an awesome leader to over 20,000 members of the Rock Church in San Diego, a place that I've been blessed with his trust enough to preach in the past. I'm really excited to have him here. He's gonna discuss his life, his passions, and his new book, The Third Option, which addresses a topic that is literally, in my opinion, one of the most important places that we in the body of Christ need to be leading the way, not lagging behind, and that is on the topic of race. So please welcome former NFL football player and superstar, Miles McPherson. Hello, Miles.
Hey.
How was that?
Good, it was great.
Good, okay, good. So last week we got to meet you. Because for millions of people around the world, meeting you and knowing your story, being a mixed race young boy, young man, and growing up and experiencing racism on both sides of the equation is important, right, I think, to the topic of racism, which is really what this book deals with. And I have to ask you, Miles, you speak about, in answer to the question, what is racism, institutionalized racism, and then personally mediated racism. And internalized racism. So would you take us through what those three things are?
Yeah, institutionalized racism are systems, governmental systems, business systems, cultural systems that favor one group over another. And there's many layers to that all over the world. But on a very basic level, when my sister was gonna buy a house in Maryland, the real estate agent told her we have to find an appropriate neighborhood to direct you to buy a house, or neighborhoods that we're going to direct you away from. And so this would be more of an unspoken type of institutional. And she was like, what does that mean? And she explained it to her, but she picked one of those inappropriate neighborhoods to move into. Her husband, who happened to be a police officer at the time, and in Maryland, they would bring their police cars home. He came home with 9 of his friends, 9 cop cars, and they helped move the furniture into the house. And therefore, all the neighbors saw, well, these people are cop friendly. So they had no problems. And the people in the neighborhood were great, but that was kind of like, we're putting certain people in one neighborhood and certain people in another. But so institutional racism is systematic, and if it favors you, you don't really realize it. And so you would kind of deny that it exists. Then there's personally mediated, where I'm going to express it one to another media. And that's really the racism we think about when someone calls someone a name. Yeah. But then there's internalized, which, I mean, they're all ugly. This could be maybe the most damaging, because it's when you believe what was said about you. And when people say you're less than, that you're never going to be something, and they give you these labels of derogatory names, where you start to believe that and live it, and it becomes a self-fulfilling prophecy in your life. Right. And there are a lot of people listening right now, it may not be racism, it may be your dad cursed you, called you stupid or ugly or fat, or you're a failure, and you believed it. And so that's what you live out. And so when you internalize the negative message of racism or discrimination, that's internalized.
Wow, that makes me think of James and the power of life and death in the tongue, and I'd have to ask you, were there things, words spoken over your life that caused you to internalize anything that you had to be delivered from or that you had to deal with on your journey?
Well, all the names, all the names the white kids call me and all the names black kids call me, you have all these labels, the N-word, white boy, half-breed, all those kind of things, monkey, all those kind of terms that people put on you. that you have to deal with. It's one thing to know that they're wrong, but it's another thing and when you see it on culture, when you see it on television, that you're not the only one, and that there's a great percentage of the population, especially back in the 60s, that had people separated.
Yeah.
And so you were on one side or the other, being bounced back and forth. And so you have to wrestle with all that, because even if you walk into a room, you start to wonder who in the room is thinking that about you, because you've been hurted so much. And so it's not only what you believe about yourself, but it's what you think other people are thinking about you, and that's why they're treating you the way they're treating you. So it is a constant struggle.
Man, it is really difficult to be successful in the world when you are constantly projecting that one maybe negative line of words that someone put on your life onto everybody, everywhere you go, isn't it?
Yes, and in women, it's the same thing. I'm sure I'm not a woman, but I would assume that women feel that way as well. They walk into a room, there's a bunch of guys, and what are these guys thinking? And again, I can't speak for women, but I would imagine that there's some women that have experienced that, and you have to get to the point where you say, I know who I am, and who my security and who I am is going to supersede what people think about me.
Right, right. You talk in your book about in and out groups. What are in and out groups?
Yeah. This is kind of the common thread. Every one of us are in groups. Females are a group. Married females are a group. Married females with children are a group. And on and on. And men are a group, men with jobs, men not with jobs. So we're all in multiple groups. And whatever group you're in, that's your in-group. Everybody not in that particular group are an out-group for that particular group. So you and I are married, so we're in a married group, but I'm a guy, so you're in my out-group as far as gender. Whatever group you're in, you understand that group pretty intimately. I understand what being married is about. I don't understand what being divorced is about, but I understand what being married is about. But my ideas about my out-group being divorced, I don't know intimately. I've heard stuff, but I really don't know. When it comes to ethnicity, the group is what we look like, pretty much, or our culture.
Right.
So I know what it means to be like this.
Right.
I don't know what it means to be Latino, or Middle Eastern. And what happens is, because we don't really know intimately our out-group, we stereotype based on the little bit of information we have. And with those few bits of information of the people in our out-group, let's just talk ethnic for one. Yeah. Whatever you're not, you have very limited information about people who are not like you ethnically.
Right.
But you believe that little bit of information that you have from the news, from your family, is factual and is the whole story. And that's where stereotypes come in, and labels that are based on limited information. And once you label someone based on a few pieces of information, you somewhat dehumanize them.
Completely.
Because often it's derogatory. Right. And now you can't relate to them as a human. Right. And so when it comes to the book, is how can we get over that and realize our blind spots, the things we don't even realize we can't see? How do I get over my fear and my ignorance, my resentment, based on that little bit of information? Yeah. And realize people are a lot more beautiful and complex than we know.
Well, speaking of before we even talk about blind spots, there's something in the book that I found to be fascinating, and it's sort of 50 Shades of Brown, and you have these stories of celebrities going to get their DNA tested, and even a white supremacist, I can't remember his name, Craig something or another, and they go in and find out that maybe they're a lot less white than they thought, or that they're black, or that they're, and I was blown away by that.
Yeah, there was a guy who was a Klansman, and he got his DNA tested, and it was revealed on a talk show he's 14% black. It's important for us to know what we are and to realize that we're all mixed. I mean, we're all mixed with something.
Yeah, all those celebrities were mixed. Nobody was pure.
Correct. I mean, and most of the people, listen, we come from a melting pot. Yeah. And God made us so similar that we can mix. That's the beautiful thing about it. Mm-hmm. I tell you though, one of the things that I think was the biggest and if the most important thing that I learned through this process, and that is important for people to understand. You can be racially offensive and not be a racist. And this point is so important because many people, now, by the way, let me say there are people who are racist, no doubt. Most people, if you ask them, they will say they're not. So those are two choices. Either I am or I'm not. The third option is that you're biased. And that you have a less than neutral view of things because you can't possibly know everything about everybody. That's just being human. But you can say racially offensive things and not be a racist, because sometimes you may say it out of nervousness, out of ignorance. You may say it trying to build a bridge, but because you have limited information about how what you say might be received, it's offensive, but you're not really trying to offend. It's like when I was even coming on the show, I love the UK accent, right?
Yeah.
And I could say, hey, I can't wait to come because I want to speak, I want to learn your accent. That could offend somebody.
Right.
I mean, I would hope it wouldn't,
right.
But it's sincere, right?
Yeah.
But I may be racially offensive. So someone may say to me, listen, you offended me. And even though I didn't mean to, I need to take note that I need to be careful to say that because I need to believe how it was received. The reason this is important is because all throughout my life, and it didn't hit me until I read this book, when I would talk to people about their racially offensive views or comments, because they couldn't separate being racially offensive from being a racist, they were equating being racially offensive to being a racist. So because they could never accept being a racist, they would never accept they were racially offensive. And so they would argue against me saying, that's not offensive, it's not offensive. I'm like, no, but it is. But if they could separate those two things,
right,
and say, you know what, I didn't mean to, and that doesn't necessarily make me a racist, but I want to learn.
right.
That's the big hurdle, because I'm sure there's people watching this show saying, well, I'm not a racist, so this book doesn't apply to me. Well, it applies to all of us who want to learn how to love and honor what we have in common better. And all of us who realize that racism impacts all of us in some way, whether we realize it or not. Because sometimes it's just affecting the person you're talking to.
Right.
And how they're hearing you.
So well said. So well said. It's like racially offensive means I made a mistake. Racism means I have an intentional anger or hatred against you in my heart. And I do find, you remember that old saying, ignorance is bliss? I just think most of us are ignorant to a lot of each other. And until we travel around the world and interact and make mistakes and learn and grow, we don't know. I'll tell you a story. I was sitting on set one day this season, and I made the peace sign to the camera. And the camera stopped, and my producer, Emily, ran out of the booth, and she goes, no, you can't do that. And I'm thinking, I can't wish everyone peace? Well, our peace sign is telling someone to go find a bird. Right, that's how, right. I was sending a very bad message to the entire international audience that watches me on TV and UK around the world. Is that crazy? And I didn't know that. Right. I would have been beyond racially offensive. But see, you don't know until you live and you learn. And that kind of brings me, I guess, to a question that I'd love to get your take on. Do you think that we're throwing that word around without enough thought?
I think people can use and do use the word racist as a weapon. I think some people use it appropriately, that what people are saying is offensive and it's racist to say.
Right.
This book, though, is not about not being racist. It's about how to be honoring. And because you can walk on eggshells thinking about what you're trying to avoid, or you could take the posture of, here's what I'm intensely trying to do. And so when I meet you, I could say, okay, I could be thinking, okay, what don't I say? What don't I say? What don't I say? Or I could be thinking, I want to get to know you. I want to honor you. I want to respect you. I want to encourage you. And that's so positive, and it's the intent of the heart that's going to come through. So even if I do make a mistake, you know that my heart was for you and it wasn't trying to avoid.
Yeah, see that this is like a real, I think, interesting thing to recognize, the intent of the heart. Because I think that sadly, when you don't know someone, you don't know the intent of their heart. So would you say that as people, part of the third option would be giving each other the benefit of the doubt more? Can't we all just get along?
It's not complicated. You know, every time you have a conversation with someone, you're having a race conversation. So as I'm looking at you, I see you're brown. I see your color, which is, we didn't get into blind spots, but we'll talk about that in a minute.
Oh, yeah.
But, you know, we say, I don't see color. Well, of course we do. And we only say it when we see it and we don't want to talk about it. And so I see you're brown. I see your hair straight, you know, and I see you have a dark black jacket on, of course. And my brain has information about people like you that look like you. And my brain is automatically going to throw out these assumptions that it's subconscious. I can't even stop it. However, I can suspend those, take note, and put it over here, and now let you self-disclose to me.
Right.
I want to hear where you're from. I want to hear your story. I want to hear your intelligence, your dreams, your passions, instead of me imposing on you. So it's one thing to have assumptions, which we all make because we were taught from our upbringing what certain people are like and from our experiences. Can't change that. That's fine. But it doesn't mean that that is true and it's the whole story, and it doesn't mean I need to listen to that. So I take it under advisement, but then I listen to you, and you may speak language. Matter of fact, this is a perfect example. I was in the UK, and I'm walking down the street in London, and I saw a dark-skinned black guy, and I said, "Yo, what's up?" And I'm expecting to hear, "Yo, what's happening?" Right?
Right.
But he in the English accent, which I can't really do, but he said, "Hello," you know, with your English accent, and it threw me off because I'm so used to hearing a guy in the United States, right? And of course, okay, duh, you're in London, but even though it's international city, so my assumption was I was going to hear what I hear here, because that's what I'm used to seeing. And then when he said that, I said, I got to talk to this guy right now. And so you want people to self-disclose to you and be open to learning about people versus imposing on them your limited, somewhat dehumanizing assumptions.
Yeah, I totally get that, because I think we're conditioned in America, especially when when you have a certain experience in America. I don't know if it's this way around the world, but for example, you've experienced celebrity in your life. You know, you've been a professional athlete. You've been around celebrity. We're in California. You know what I mean? Like, you're going to run into celebrities all over the place. But because it's such a small community out there in California and Hollywood, have you ever noticed that, like, I had a friend who asked me once, she said, do all Black actors and actresses know each other? Because she was at an awards event with me, and I walked by Jada, hey, and you walk by Will, hey, Will, what's up? And you walk by but it's just that there's so few of us, so you automatically salute and honor each other. You recognize the other one there, and there is sort of this unspoken thing of we do all know each other because there's so few of us to know. Is that in some way not right?
Not right to say hello to each other?
No, is it in some way not right that, well, I guess what you're saying is it's in some way not right when we take that experience that we have, bring it to another country and assume that the guy on the street, or assume that the guy on the street, even in our own country, is going to respond the same way.
Oh, you know what? It's a habit.
Yes.
It's a habit, you know, and I'm 58 years old, so for 50, well, at the time I was probably 55, whatever it was, you say hello, especially in our culture. What people might not realize, in our culture, Black guys say hi to each other all the time. It's just kind of like you do.
Yeah.
And it's kind of like saying, I see you, you're not by yourself. It's kind of just like a respect thing, but also I got your back type of thing.
Right.
And so if you, no matter where you're at, if you look at and see another, you go, what's up? Just to say hi.
Right.
Women don't necessarily do that, but guys do that. So I was walking through the airport in Dallas, and I had a white friend of mine with me, and I wasn't thinking about, I was just doing it. Like, what's up to the guys in Dallas airport? Well, I don't live in Dallas, I live in San Diego. And the guy with me said, do you know those guys?
Right.
And I said, no, that's what we do.
Right.
And I said, watch this. And another black guy walked by, what's up? That's just what we do.
Right.
And he didn't understand. Not that he's supposed to, because that's not culturally what he does. Right. And so when I was in the UK, I was like, oh, what's up? I was kind of like, I was just what I do.
Right, exactly.
And he did say hi. It was just his accent threw me off, because I had never, I didn't really know people there, and it just threw me off because I was expecting to hear, what I hear here.
Yeah.
So anyway, it's just a habit, but here's the thing though, it was refreshing to me.
Yeah.
We have to get to a point where we celebrate people. I was told years ago, people don't see color. Someone said to me they didn't see my color. And I thought they didn't see red, blue, yellow, and green. Mm. And they said, no, I don't see your color, which really threw me off because I didn't understand what that meant. Mm. And of course we see color, and that's the only reason they said it, because they saw my color that they were saying they didn't see. When we get a tan in Hawaii, we celebrate it. Right. But when someone gets a tan in the womb, we invalidate it like it's not there. Mm. We need to celebrate people and their uniqueness and their culture and their accent and their food and how they do weddings. And everybody, we all around the world do the same things, just a little different.
Yeah. Yeah.
We all have weddings, and we all want to raise our kids, and we all have certain foods we cook. We all want to show hospitality, often with that food.
Right.
But we do it differently. And often culture wants to say, my culture is better than your culture. Yeah. Instead of saying, I want to celebrate your culture. I want to learn about your culture. I want to learn about your accent, your language, your family, how you do wedding. I did a wedding for an African-American guy married to an Ethiopian woman. And so the 1,000 people were at this wedding, 1,000. Oof. Easy 1,000.
Oof.
Half of them were from the Ethiopian culture, and half were from African-American culture. Completely different.
Completely.
It was 3 days.
Right. Yeah.
I only went day one. I was on vacation. I did my friend a favor. I couldn't go day 2 and day 3.
Yeah.
But the wedding I went to, the wedding I did, was so different. It was awesome.
Yeah.
And I was like, if I got married again, I'm doing that.
Right. Right. And yeah. Right. I don't want to. We're sort of talking around blind spots. So I think I need to let you actually hit something that you deal with in the book really well. So kind of take us through blind spots.
Yeah, if you there's a new thing in cars in the U.S. I don't know if they have it there, where there's a little light on the side of the rearview mirror. Did they start doing that?
I think they do have them here in the newer cars.
Okay.
Yeah.
It's a new thing here. I just got it. And when a car is next to you in your blind spot, where your rearview mirror can't see it, the light comes on and tells you there's a car there.
Yeah.
We have blind spots in our eyes. That's why we have 2 eyes to make up for it. But we also have a blind spot in how we view the world. Mm. Our social narrative, the story that defines how we see the world, creates a lens through which we see everything. Mm. But the social narrative, which is the story of our upbringing and all the input we got growing up, is limited. Yeah. To your neighborhood. I mean, you could live, the social narrative of my brother who lived in the same house as me, he sees the world differently than me. So yeah. You get what I'm saying?
Yes, I do. I get it. Yeah.
So you see the world from a very limited perspective. It's real to you, but it's very limited to the whole story. Yeah. So we have blind spots. Yeah. So we think, hey, if I say I don't see color, that's okay. Well, that may be to you. But to the person of color who has carried a burden, that color has put a burden on his back or her back that you don't know about and maybe don't even want to acknowledge. You have a blind spot. You're intending to build a bridge when in fact the impact is offensive. So that means you don't know. Now, the cool thing about blind spots, if there is, can be, is that you don't know it. So it doesn't make you a bad person. But we all have to realize we all have blind spots about thousands and thousands of things. And we have to get to the point where we can accept these things I don't know. And by the way, it doesn't make me a racist if I don't know it. Now, if I find out about it and keep doing it, it's a different story.
Right, then it's intent.
Right. But if I want to know some of my blind spots, and again, this is in the book, one of the things you can do is go up to a person and say, is there anything I'm saying that's offensive to you? Is there anything I'm saying that's offensive to your culture? Yeah. And this is going to really resonate. If the guys listening went up to the women in their life and say, is there anything that I do that makes you feel uncomfortable?
Well, let me take out the book I've been writing for 6 years. No.
You follow what I'm saying?
Yeah.
I mean, if you really want to respect women and people in general.
Yeah.
But, you know, women being offended and mistreated is a big thing in the world right now, right? I mean, it should all have always been, but it is right now. Listen, take a pause and ask, do you know, if you really want to get, do I creep you out? Is there anything I do that's creepy? Because I know, listen, I know women have certain guys that they just, you know, you get what I'm saying. And I mean, you more than me.
Yeah.
But if you want to, as a guy, and any person, if you want to know if there's something you're doing you may not realize is offensive or makes someone feel uncomfortable, ask them. And if you're black, you can ask white people, or white, if you want to ask black people or Hispanic people, is there anything I know I do? And they can say, you know, when you say this, and you maybe have been saying that for a long time, but you just didn't know. But then now you're accountable.
Wow, that is so heavy, because I have 3 follow-up thoughts to that. But we're going to wait until next week. We're going to talk some more with Pastor Miles about everything in this book. I'm Cynthia Garrett. You've been watching the sessions. We will see you next week.
This isn't failing love, that you would take my place, that you would bear my cross, 'cause it's who you are. You laid down your life, that I would be set free. Yeah. Oh, Jesus, I sing for all that you've done for me.
Hi, everybody. I'm Cynthia Garrett, and I hope you're enjoying the conversations that we're having about race with Pastor Miles McPherson, the author of The Third Option, Hope for a Racially Divided Nation. The book is incredible. The sessions have been incredible, and this is encouragement to help all of us navigate the world of race today. I'll see you on the next session. Thanks.